All right, let's dive into a mystery that's literally been set in stone for 2,000 years. We're going to talk about the incredible, almost magical concrete of ancient Rome and how it could completely change the future of our cities.
You look at something like the Pantheon in Rome. It has stood through earthquakes, floods, and basically 2 millennia of history. Then you look at a modern highway overpass, and we're lucky if it lasts 50 years without needing some serious repairs. So what on earth did the Romans know that we didn't?
For the longest time, the explanation we had was, well, it was kind of a myth. It was a story that seemed to make sense, but it just wasn't the full, brilliant picture. For centuries, pretty much everyone pointed to one special ingredient: volcanic ash. And look, they were right. The Romans definitely used it. It was a super important part of their recipe. But as scientists started to dig deeper, they realized it wasn't the secret to the concrete's amazing self-healing powers. It was only half the story. For years, when researchers would look at ancient Roman walls, they'd see these little, mysterious white chunks just stuck in the concrete. And the common thinking was, wow, these guys were sloppy at mixing. They just figured the Romans were messy and didn't blend their ingredients all that well. But it turns out that mistake was actually a stroke of pure genius.
And this is where we get to the breakthrough. This is the moment when scientists realized those sloppy white chunks weren't a bug at all, but a feature, a 2,000-year-old superpower that was hiding in plain sight this whole time.
So how'd they figure it out? Well, using some really advanced imaging tech that just didn't exist until recently, a team at MIT led by a scientist named Admir Mazik finally cracked the code. They uncovered this ancient technique they now call hot mixing. And this isn't just some wild theory, it's being confirmed right now, with research happening on the ancient walls of Pompeii.
So what exactly is hot mixing? See, today we use something called slaked lime, which is lime that's already been mixed with water. The Romans, they did something way more dramatic. They used quicklime, which is a dry, really reactive form of lime. And when they added water to that, it kicked off a massive chemical reaction.
And when I say massive, I mean it. The mixture would heat up to a crazy 200 degrees Celsius. That's almost 400 degrees Fahrenheit. This incredible heat wasn't just some side effect. It was absolutely essential to the whole process. And here's where it all clicks. That extreme heat is what created those weird white chunks, the ones everyone thought were just sloppy mixing. The heat actually formed chemical compounds that you just can't get at normal temperatures. We now know they're called limeclasts, and they were put there completely on purpose. So let's just lay this out. The myth was that the Romans were careless. The reality? No. Those white lumps are tiny little self-healing packets. The myth was that they just mixed it cold like we do. The reality? The hot mixing was the whole secret. It really shows you that the concrete doesn't just last because of some special ash. It lasts because it can actively repair itself. Okay, so we know they did it on purpose, but how does this self-repair thing actually work? The best way to think about it is to imagine thousands of tiny little pharmacies hidden right there inside the walls. Yep, each one of those little white lime clasts is basically a pre-packaged first aid kit. It just sits there, totally dormant, waiting inside the concrete. It does absolutely nothing until the structure gets damaged. Here's how it all goes down. First, over time, a tiny crack forms, totally normal for any building. Step 2, rainwater seeps into that little crack. Third, the water finds one of those lime clasts and dissolves it, kicking off that chemical reaction. And finally, step 4, that reaction creates this kind of liquid stone that flows into the crack and hardens, sealing the wound completely shut. So the concrete isn't just a boring, static block of material. It's an active system, just waiting to be triggered so it can wake up and fix itself. This quote really nails it. It's like a biological immune system for a building. When it gets hurt, it knows how to heal itself. Now, all of this is more than just a cool history lesson. Figuring out this ancient technology has some really big implications for how we build our world, right now, today. Here's the deal. The way we make concrete today has a massive environmental cost. Modern cement production is responsible for about 8% of all global carbon dioxide emissions. That is a gigantic number. And having to constantly repair and replace our crumbling structures only makes the problem worse. So the takeaway here is pretty clear. The Romans didn't just stumble upon some lucky recipe. They were brilliant engineers who designed a smart, responsive material. They weren't just building for their own lifetime, they were building for millennia. And this is where the past really meets the future. What they created back then, A self-healing concrete that lasts forever is exactly what we're trying to build now. Scientists are actually testing this hot mixing idea today, hoping to develop modern, self-healing materials that could slash our carbon footprint and give us truly sustainable buildings.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? For centuries, we looked at the absolute genius of Roman concrete and we called it a mistake. So that leaves us with one last question. What other ancient secrets are hiding out there in plain sight, just waiting for us to see them not as flaws, but as the brilliant features they really are?